Hello, and thank you for joining us today. This week is really important. This is Hate Crime Awareness Week, and it is still a crime that is increasing. And I come across so many people who tell me, oh, it's all, you're making it all up, or it doesn't really exist. So today I have some stunning experts in the room with me about how we can challenge some of these myths, because where there's a vacuum of information, people just make stuff up. So I just want to go through some of those in the next few minutes. So I think that I'm delighted to be welcoming from Victim Support. We have Kathy and Vivian, and from SWAN we have Nikki and Costa. So we're going to have a look at some of the statements. So first of all, I'm going to have to read this out. I just want to read out the definition of hate crime. Hate crime is a criminal offence that is perceived by the victim or any other person to be motivated by hostility or prejudice based on the following: race, religion, gender, disability, transgender or sexuality. So the first statement I want to put to you as experts is that verbal hate crime can be viewed as just a joke, banter, name calling. But what would your response be to that? So Costa, can I come to you first?
Yes, I have worked for over 15 years at the victim services, and never once have I met a victim of hate crime who hasn't taken it seriously in terms of the impact it had on them. No matter how lighthearted it was meant, or someone else considered it as banter, they always took it very seriously and personally. It really does affect people. It affects them because it changes the perception of, the safety of their society and the community that they live in, and they feel that perhaps left out. And also sometimes it's just the fear as well, isn't it? So where they, it's just the whole idea of, okay, it can happen to me again. So it leads to fear in whole communities, and because of the fear, they don't come out to report sometimes. So I would say always take it seriously whenever you hear something where someone has been attacked for who they are. Do challenge it, follow the right way of doing it, obviously, but it's something that does affect people, and as far as I can see, the evidence is there.
Yeah. Kathy from Victim Support.
Thank you, Sue. Yeah, I agree completely with that. I think the work we do, we see the devastating impact that these comments can have on people. We work with many people affected by hate crime, and one of the things that we see is often very serious harassment and abuse can start with what are seen by some as just banter when it's not that way. And I think I would add to that othering can make people feel like they're outsiders and not normal. And worse still, it can be an attack on their identity, and our identities are so personal to us and a huge part of how we see ourselves. So to use that identity to mock, embarrass or abuse, like I said, can have a massive impact on well-being, but also our sense of self, and it is really an attack on the core of who we are. So yeah, I don't think it's a joke at all.
And I take those words very, very much to heart, Kathy, because I think you are being attacked because of who you are. That absolute core, that soul, that's who you are.
Yeah.
And that's why, of course, hate crime is so hurtful. I think so. I think, I really value your words. Okay, so let's move on to question 2. So the second statement I'm going to put to you is: no one will do anything about hate crime if it is reported, and no one will be interested if the victim speaks up. So what would you say to someone who thought that is what's happening? So Vivian, shall I come to you first?
Yeah, thanks, Sue. So I guess I want to start off by being completely honest. I do think there have been times when what you're talking about, has happened. I do think we as a society are getting better at valuing and respecting and celebrating our differences and celebrating the things that unite us all together. Victim Support was founded in Bristol over 40 years ago, and throughout that time, we as an organisation have been working closely with the police in that time. And here in Avon in Somerset, we've seen a significant improvement in how victims of hate crime are treated and how they're responded to by the police. I mean, I genuinely believe that there is a more positive response than ever, and that there's a real commitment from the police to address hate crime and to support victims. It's also worth remembering that you don't have to report to the police to get support. I mean, for some people, it might feel like, you know, they're not ready to take that step, and they might even feel that they're never ready to take that step, and that's completely understandable. We just want everyone to know that, you know, if you are affected by hate crime, you can get support from us at Victim Support or from VOCAS, and also from other agencies, whether or not you've reported to the police or not. So just to know that that is also an option.
And that's such an important message, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're very much victim-led. So it's what they want. You as an organisation, the police as an organisation, is what they want. Because you've got to start taking control again, isn't it? And it's that lack of control that's so invidious. Costa, do you want to come back in?
Yes, and I fully agree with what Vivienne has just said, and want to echo also that a lot of progress has been made. It wasn't always as you know, that everyone was as aware, but we all learned over the years about the, you know, what actually constitutes hate crime and how it affects people. And I think everyone, including the authorities and the third sector, we have become so much better at recognizing and dealing with it. I know personally from the case that I've dealt with that it's pretty much always been taken seriously. I definitely know I can hold my hand on my heart for VOCAS, for the service that we provide, something that we will absolutely take very seriously. We will prioritize, we give people the time and space to tell their story. We will, when appropriate, we will encourage them to report because we think they get better outcomes. However, when the person doesn't feel they want to report, or when it's, you know, for whatever reason, they don't want to go ahead, they will still get exactly the same service from us. They will get all the support they need in order to deal with the effects of the hate crime.
Okay, just because we're using the word VOCAS, do you just want to say that SWAN is another name for the same thing?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
So SWAN Advocacy Service and VOCAS falls under the SWAN Advocacy Service, and we have 100% alignment of you know, of how we look at that of hate crime.
It was just for clarity's sake. Okay. So let's move on to the third myth. So, which focuses on those who might witness hate crime, but are not the victim. So, I'm just a bystander and there's nothing I can do. Is there anything I can do? What are your thoughts? So, Nikki, should we come to you?
Well, I think there is something that you can do, but I do think that witnessing hate crime can have an impact on the individual themselves as well. So the first thing I would say is don't put yourself at any risk. So if you feel that stepping in and intervening in the incident puts you or the victim at any more risk, then I would say don't do that, but phone the police and report what you're seeing. And I would stress that bystanders can play a really important role to tackle hate crime. Reporting what you've seen, we all have the responsibility to report incidents that we've seen, and it can provide really crucial information to the police to tackle the offenders, to create a case, it's sometimes like a piece of a puzzle. So if you report something that you've seen, it might not feel like it's the biggest piece of the puzzle, but it might be the last piece of the puzzle that we need to get that perpetrator. I've missed my. I'm the first person to mess up.
No, Nikki, you are absolutely right that we don't know where our bit of our jigsaw's going to fit in, do we? And the fact is, it may be the last piece, which is great because then we can bring the perpetrator to justice. But it almost might be the first piece, and then we get other pieces, and then we can start a new jigsaw because of something that we don't know. So I think it really is important that as bystanders we have a critical path to play, and also just to support the victim that we're just not walking by.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the last. Yeah, that was the last thing I was going to say. Was it's really important to be there for the victim afterwards. So if there's any way to ensure that victim is safe after the incident, by either phoning the police or ensuring that there's a family or friend that they can be with. I think that's really important too.
I absolutely agree. Kathy, do you want to add to that?
I totally agree with what you've both said there. Firstly, what I would say is hate crime affects everybody. If discrimination and abuse exists in our society, then our society is worse off because of that. I totally back up the thing about, you know, I'm very clear that people don't put themselves at risk, but there are many ways in which we can show support and be an ally. For example, as you've said, you know, you can report on behalf of somebody else. And I'm very cautious in saying this, but there may be some situations where you may be able to diffuse that without risk. So, for example, if you were on a bus and somebody was being mocked or having, you know, name calling, you may be able to sit closer to them if it doesn't put you at risk, or even maybe put your phone down, put your newspaper down and look around and let people know that you're there and that you're aware. And again, I agree with what you were saying. One of the worst things I think for people who are affected by hate crime, they've told us, is that they didn't feel it was just a perpetrator that held those views. It was the people around them that didn't say or do anything, and they felt that they felt the same things. So again, I would never encourage anybody to put themselves at risk, but using the example of the bus again, maybe when the perpetrator got off, you could go and sit next to the person and say, "Are you okay?" And that would make such a difference. Finally, one more thing that I would say that we can do that is a small thing that can make such a difference is to call out things that we hear, comments and jokes that make us feel uncomfortable. This can be done very gently but can make a big difference. So, for example, if you hear a friend making a sexist joke, it can feel uncomfortable to challenge that, but hate crime exists in a society where discrimination exists. So I think if we can address things at the root, that can make a difference. Yeah.
Thank you, Kathy. I think very wise words. And it's all, we are all part, aren't we, of not being part of that perpetrator issue, so that when we you know, if we do see it or we do hear it, that actually we do have a responsibility, always remembering never to put ourselves at risk. And you know, you've all emphasized how important that is. But there are some times where you can just go and move on the bus, or you can just say, "Are you okay?" Because it's that challenge that it's not okay. It made you feel as a bystander really uncomfortable, and you are concerned for the victim. So I think it's really, really important. Yeah. So let me, before we wrap up, so is there anything more to add? So from Victim Support, is there anything that you'd like to say?
Yeah, I mean, from the point of view of support, I just really like to encourage people to get support. We recognise that different people like to access support in different ways, and now more than ever, it's important to have multiple ways to contact us to get that support. As I said earlier, and I think we've all said, you don't need to report to the police to access support. And for us, if you want to access our support anonymously, that is actually an option. So our local office is open on Monday, Wednesday and Friday from 9:30 to 5:30, and Tuesdays and Thursdays from 11 to 7 p.m. We also have a 24-hour helpline that runs every day of the week, and you can call them on 0808 1689 111, and a live chat function that's available at our website, which is www.victimsupport.org.uk. One more thing I just want to mention is that we have developed some really good online resources that include books and workbooks and tutorials that people can work through at their own pace, including sections on hate crime. So you can access these by going to www.mysupportspace.org.uk/MOJ or vs.silvercloudhealth.com/sign up. And I think all of these things will be available in the link. So thanks for bearing with me. A lot of information, I know. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassie. I think you did that very well. Some of those are real mouthfuls. So is there anything else that you want to add from SWAN, Nikki or Costa?
Yeah, so just to clarify, SWAN, Southwest Advocacy Network, we provide services across the Southwest, but here in Avon and Somerset, we have our Victims of Crime Advocacy Service, which is referred to as VOCAS. We provide advocacy, emotional and practical support to victims who are entitled to an enhanced service under the Victims Code of Practice. It's really important that people have access to advocacy to get their voice heard. and to overcome the impact of the crime. So you can get in touch with our VOCAS service by calling us on 03333 447928 or through our website swanadvocacy.org.uk/VOCAS. We have a VOCAS Twitter, which is VOCAS_SWAN, and on Facebook we're Southwest Advocacy Network. I would also like to say, if you're an organisation or community group based in Somerset, North Somerset or Baines and would like more information on how to recognise hate crime and support victims, get in touch with us or our partner agency, SARI. We deliver free, virtual or socially distanced awareness sessions as part of our National Lottery funded Every Victim Matters project. So do get in touch if we can help you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Victim Support and VOCAS. So if you are listening and you have been a victim of hate crime, please report. You don't have to report to the police. You can report to these agencies, and there are other ones. But the important thing is that you will be heard and you will be taken seriously. And you may want to report to the police. And I can promise you that it will be taken seriously. So your voice is really important. And never think that we are not listening, because we are. So I hope you found this useful, and until the next time, thank you.